Hello guys, I'm Archaic at Overclocked Gaming. We are at the WCG Qualifiers for Canada, so kind of a big deal here in Edmonton. With me today is Gofarman. He is, I guess you'd say, a tournament admin?
Yeah, I organize and referee the tournaments that we have here at Overklocked. WCG is doing a good thing. I'm glad to see that we have a little bit of cooperation across Canada. So yeah.
So why don't you just tell us a bit about your history in Edmonton in the Starcraft scene? Give us a little overview of what you've done.
I started adminning, or at least getting involved in the tournament side of Starcraft about 3 years ago after I went to our local tournament LAN gathering called Fragapalooza. It was a lot bigger in its old days, had Evil Genius's Counter-Strike team come here and things like that.
Yep.
But they screwed me over in the brackets, and I got really frustrated, and I said, this can be done better. So I did something about it, and I got involved with a guy that was running tournaments for the fighting game community, and this kind of started off and done, so yeah.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of us, I think. We see how people are running things and see how badly it is, so then we're like, well, we can do a better job. So why don't you talk a bit about these WCG qualifiers? Give us sort of what it's like doing this.
Well, for the qualifiers, I think it's new, and so I know a lot of LAN centers around the country, they have their tournaments maybe once a month. In a lot of cities, it turns out to be more like once every 3 or once every 4 months, just because there's not much, if any, money in it for either the LAN centers or the organizers, right? Like, we don't quite have the endemic esports sponsors that a lot of the places down in the States seem to. I mean, I don't know if they actually have them, but from what I've seen, it seems like there's a lot more interaction just because the States is a much more valuable market. And they have bigger cities, so places like Toronto are seeing that too, where they get a little bit more interaction from the sponsors. So it's a bit of a struggle, but with WCG coming in, it's really like combining the, it's bringing all of the cities together. So it kind of makes us more as a unified body, which makes it a lot more attractive to sponsorship, I think, which is a really big thing that we'll see if this continues to happen in the future, where we have cities like Regina or St. John's or Edmonton or Vancouver, which on their own aren't big enough for a bigger sponsor like Monster really look at seriously, because we probably only have like 300 or 400 people in the city that are going to be actively involved or aware of it even. So when you compare it to a tournament like MLG, which has 2 million, 3 million, the scale is so different that it's not really comparable. But when we bring all these cities together, and we get Toronto, and we get Montreal, and we get Edmonton and Calgary and Vancouver, and I'm pretty sure there's one having St. John's as well, then we get that full spectrum of Canada, and we actually get access to our, I'm going to guess, somewhere around 40,000 people in Canada that are actively involved in it. And that might be low, it might be more like 200,000, but I'm not, that's kind of what I think, and then a sponsor can look at this a lot more seriously.
Yeah, so do you think the most important thing for like Canadian esports is for us to kind of band together and do more of these sort of combined events? Or what do you think sort of the kind of next big step that Canada needs to take?
Yeah, I think doing combined events like this is a really useful skill, because a really useful advancement, because when you have, I can't remember who, but I read this article, but I can't remember who said this, but you have this kind of it's almost like a syndrome happen when there's a small community that just plays against each other. You run into this issue where the top players, they need to be practicing against each other to get better, don't want to practice against each other because of that's where their money, that's where their income, that's where all of their value comes from, beating those players. So if they practice with them, they don't retain that advantage. And so when we go into this bigger spectrum, we go into this Canada so that we can have better access to all the people across Canada, then you can see a little bit more of a beneficial engagement from a community happening, right? Because if Edmonton is always running into this problem where a couple guys from Toronto are beating them, then we can start practicing, and it can be more of a clan, more of an almost medieval clan-based system where you want to band against other teams, much like the Korean system where you have teams who are maybe giving up personal sacrifice so that their group can do better. And I think something like that, where Canada is more competitive across the country, even though we have like a 4.5-hour time zone difference from coast to coast, it can see a lot of improvements across, not just in the competitiveness, but in the overall skill and in the international community as well.
Right. And do you think, as far as the professional scene, because we saw Canadian players do quite well early in the game with Huck kind of being a dominant force, what do you think is sort of, do we need more Canadian players to cheer for at the top tier? Or what sort of drives the Barcrafts and the sort of group get-togethers in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I think when people talk about how good Canada is, and they always kind of feel like Canada isn't doing what it should. We're striking below where we should. But when you look at it, Canada actually has, I believe we're 4th of all countries for number of medals.
Interesting. I didn't know.
We're past America. We're above Britain. We're above Germany. Like, a lot of countries that are seemingly a lot more active are not nearly as medaled as us. And part of that is because of Huck and Scarlett. But people look at Canada and they think that it should do better. But really, in my opinion, Canada is doing really, really well, especially in the environment that we're given. Like, we have such big obstacles to cross. Like, America's got obstacles. I'm not going to say that they don't. And so does like other places like South Africa. But as far as competing in these international events, like, you're seeing, it's really hard. Even we're seeing this in other games too with League. Previously, before they got their new visa system, they were having troubles just getting down into the States to play in LCS. And the same thing with Canada, having that same problem with going to the rest of the world. So Canada's really, we're striking above our weight. And anything more that we can do is good. And WCG and Esports Canada are really, well, they're two separate countries, not to make them together, but WCG as well as Esports Canada are doing a lot of good things and helping us out a lot, yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much for the interview, Gofarman. I'm Archaic at Archaic Coaching on YouTube and Twitter. Follow me, subscribe to me, and we'll have more content right away, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.